welcome to Cadwell Park for rounds 5 and 6 of the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship. Championship leader Tom Hill starts fastest in the Twin Spark Cup. Something to notice here, the vehicles have a little roundel which denotes what series they're in. There we go, championship leader Tom Hill, fastest with the Twin Sparks in this series as well. Chris Healy, car number 62, returning to the championship after 2 seasons out. But the battle is going to be up front. Oxborough on pole position in the modified Alfa 75, and behind him in car 68, Paul Webster, twice a winner at Silverstone in the opening race of the season. He's going to be close behind in his Alfa 156. It's going to be exciting racing. It's over to Andy McEwan to take you through the rest of the grid.
Hello and welcome to Cadwell Park for rounds 5 and 6 of the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship. The cars lining up on the grid ahead of the first of 2 20-minute races here today. Here is how they line up. It is pole position for Chris Oxborough, alongside him Paul Webster in the first of the Power Trophy cars. Then it's Chris McPhee and Simon McPhee ahead of Scott Austin on the 3rd row. In the Twin Spark class, Tom Hill has the pole position ahead of Richard Ford, whilst Mike Tydeman and Simon Creswell are on row 2. Then it's Dave Messenger, Christian Leith, Riccardo Lascelli and Chris Healy, with Andy Inman at the tail end of the field. Well, we've seen some great racing all year long so far from the various classes. We've got a modified car on pole position here this weekend in the form of Chris Oxborough, the only modified competitor who has made the trip up to Cadwell Park. The lights go out, away we go for 20 minutes of racing action here at Cadwell Park, and Chris Oxborough it is who holds on to the race lead down towards the first corner, on board with Richard Ford, due to start on the outside of row number 1 in the Twin Spark class. They have a delayed start, waved off by the Union flag. Away they go, and from pole position will be Tom Hill that leads the charge down towards turn number 1. Richard, though, has got, I think that's Mike Tydeman up the inside. Yes, it is. And Mike Tydeman is going to try and go through into second position, which I think he will do. So Richard Ford gets deposited down 1 position there as they run through the first sequence of corners here at the extremely scenic and challenging Cadwell Park circuit. So Oxborough leads the way. Then it is the number 21 Abarth of Simon McPhee ahead of Chris McPhee in 3rd. Scott Austin is there in 4th place in the 155, dropping down to 6th from the front row of the grid is Paul Webster, so sorry, 5th place, excuse me. He's got some work to do. Oh, Oxborough and Simon McPhee getting together there as they come through the gooseneck, and that really has bunched the whole field up. The 2 McPhees almost come together as they drop down in towards Mansfield, so already the battle is on. In qualifying earlier on today, there were only 0.3 of a second separating Chris Oxborough on pole from Paul Webster alongside, but the McPhees were a couple of seconds further back. All of a sudden in race conditions, they're right with him though, and we've got some really close racing in prospect here. And over the hill they go, and it is now Chris McPhee who's back through into second position. So Chris McPhee is in front of his brother Simon, and then it's Scott Austin there in that beautiful number 55 Alfa Romeo 155 that is in 4th position. And Austin looking to try and get his first class victory in the Power Trophy this weekend. Hasn't won a race yet this season, has Scott, but he's slipping back a bit now as we come towards the end of the opening lap. So it is going to be Oxborough that leads the way. Chris McPhee 2nd, Simon McPhee in 3rd. Side by side for 4th position then, as Scott Austin defends the inside line. Paul Webster tries to get alongside, but can't quite do it on the run towards turn number 1. So slots back into line once more. So 20 minutes of racing then across the 2 races this weekend for the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship. But look how close it is at the front of the field. Nose to tail for the top 3. Remember, those Abarths are scoring championship points this year, which they haven't done in the past. And they are to try and get themselves further into championship contention. Simon McPhee is the best placed of the Abarths in the championship going into this weekend, but he's about 15 points off the championship lead, 16 points in fact off the championship lead going into this weekend. So work to be done if he's going to catch Tom Hill, who in turn is leading his class, of course, within the Twin Spark element. So you score points within your class in this championship rather than for winning races overall. Again, it all gets very, very close indeed coming out of the gooseneck and down towards Mansfield, but no change for the time being in the order amongst the top 5 runners. The Power Trophy and modified cars setting off earlier, of course. Then we have that delayed start for the slightly slower Twin Spark machines. But around here at Cadwell Park, where horsepower doesn't count for quite as much as it does at, say, Silverstone, for example, where we kicked off our season, it's possible that the Power Trophy cars could be caught by the Twin Spark cars before the end of the race. Speaking of being caught, look at how close Chris McPhee is to the tail of the race leader, Chris Oxborough, as they drop down into the tight right-hander at the hairpin and then into this off-camber, downhill final right-hander at Barn Corner. And Oxborough just drifts a little bit wide there as he comes off the corner in the Alfa Romeo 75. The V6 engine, though, powers him away down the pit straight, and the Abarths can't quite keep up. Again, Paul Webster tries to get himself alongside Scott Austin, but can't quite do it. Further back in the Twin Spark element of the race, there is Tom Hill. So Tom leading his class at the moment, on for maximum points, having started on pole position. There's a point for that. There's also a point for second fastest lap of the race. Second place is still Mike Tydeman, ahead of Ford in third. That's a very close battle though for the second position, on board with Richard Ford. And he is chasing down Mike Tydeman's car in front of us, the slightly newer car of Mike Tydeman. Still a 156, but the facelifted version. Richard Ford, though, in the slipstream, up the park straight. He's going to try and draw himself alongside, which he does, to the left-hand side of the road. It's the outside, though, for the next corner that's coming up at Park Corner. So unless he's got his car in front before they hit the brakes, which he has not, he's not going to be able to make that move stick. So Tydeman hangs on, Ford stays in third, and Dave Messenger, that is, in the number 79 car, running fourth place in class, having started fifth on the grid. So he's gained a position at the expense of Simon Creswell, who's fallen down the order slightly. Oh, Richard Ford really late on the brakes there into the right-left flick at the gooseneck. There's just nowhere to go, though. It's such a narrow circuit, and these Alfa Romeo 156 is not the smallest of cars, so they fill out most of the road as they slither and slide their way out onto short chute towards the mountain section. Back into that most undulating of sequences of corners here. Up the hill, through the mountain, they crest the hill, cars get light over the hill, and then they head into the Hall Bends, which is one of the most demanding sequences of corners anywhere in UK motorsport, because you go from the right to the left to the right to the left, and then hard on the brakes again into the right-hander at the hairpin, and it's all off camber and over blind crests, and it's so narrow through there as well. Too narrow for Richard Ford's liking, who still can't find a way ahead of Mike Tydeman here. The train of cars is starting to grow ever larger. You got, I think that's Christian Leith, isn't it, in the silver car? Yes, it is, car number 32, and behind him, Simon Creswell tried to make up for that poor start. They've now made this a 5-car train for second place. Yellow flags up in front, though. What's gone on amongst the leaders, because presumably that means there's a car off going through Charlie's. By the time they come out of Charlie's, there's no sign of it, and the green flags are back out, so whoever it is that's stopped has stopped out of our view. One of the leading contenders, presumably, is not going to come through this time around. Back with Richard Ford, though. So he makes his way down the gears in towards the right-hander at the top of the hill, and Tydeman ran wide there, made the mistake, and there was almost a gap up the inside for Richard Ford to slot his Alfa Romeo 156, but there is just no way through. Mike Tydeman is defending nicely for the time being. Back through the right and then the left, dropping downhill steeply. Look at the undulation there. That camera angle really does do it justice as they drop into this valley at the lowest part of the circuit. They start accelerating back uphill towards the mountain, and again Richard Ford is quicker off the corner. Looks to the inside line, there might be a gap. No, Tydeman still has the door shut in his face. And watch for Dave Messenger to try and join in all the fun as well, because he gained quite a bit of momentum on the two cars in front of him that time around as they were busy dicing. Here at the front of the field, we have our race leader, Simon McPhee, and the safety car is coming out. Now, we appear to have lost both Chris McPhee and Chris Oxborough on that lap. Now, whether that is linked to the fact that we have a safety car coming out, well, I presume it is. Whether they are linked together, as for what their disappearances are relating to, awaits to be seen. But either way, this now means that the Twin Spark cars very much are going to catch the Power Trophy machines at the front of the field. But it will be Simon McPhee that leads, Scott Austin second, and Paul Webster running around in third place. What on earth has happened to Chris McPhee and Chris Oxborough, the two Chris's, who were, the last time we saw them, remember, dicing away fairly robustly for the race lead. Well, I say robustly, firm but fair racing. They haven't made contact yet, but potentially it looks as though they might have made contact somewhere around the third lap, because neither of them came through. Well, there is Paul Webster, who started on the front row, dropped down to 5th at the start. Now he's worked his way back into 3rd as a result of other people's misfortune, and he's not that far behind the leaders now, of course, with the safety car coming out, so he will have a chance when we go racing again to potentially try and retake a couple of positions and maybe challenge for a race victory. Remember, he did out-qualify Simon McPhee. Simon it is who leads the race. To reiterate the point I started to make earlier on, you score points within your class, so it doesn't matter whether you're finishing 1st, 2nd or 3rd overall to an extent, it's where you are within your class. Now, with Oxborough disappearing, that means the top 3 cars in the race are all running within the power trophy element of the series. It's done on a power to weight ratio, so basically any car that runs between 175 and 195 brake horsepower per 1,000 kilos. They run within the power trophy class. No superchargers or sequential gearboxes allowed though in the power trophy, so they are reasonably standard cars, but just a little bit quicker than the 156s and 147s that we see in the Twin Spark Cup. But those 3 cars fill out the top 3 positions, and it is Simon McPhee who leads the way. Now, Simon came into this weekend 3rd in the points overall on 67 points. That compared to Tom Hill, who was leading the points on 83. But of course, Tom is also leading his class at the moment. He has the fastest lap within his class as well, and he qualified on pole position. And while Simon McPhee is leading his class, he does not have the fastest lap. That belongs to Paul Webster, and he didn't start on pole position because, of course, it was Chris Oxborough who started on pole. So Tom Hill on for a maximum points haul within his class, McPhee not on for a maximum points haul in his class at the moment. Paul Webster, incidentally, was 2nd place in the championship coming into this weekend, and he was only 2 points behind Tom Hill. Well, he's running 3rd overall, therefore 3rd within the power trophy class, but he's got some work to do if he's going to keep in touch with Tom Hill. There goes Tom, the black car with gold stripes that's leading the Twin Spark element of the race, and they are going to have to do another lap, I believe, behind the safety car, which is a bit of a shame. Race wins thus far this year. Well, Paul Webster is himself a 2-time race winner. He won both of the races back at Silverstone at the start of the year, but now on the slightly more tight and technical Cadwell Park, he's struggling a little bit more for pace. Then they went to Anglesey. Of course, we showed one of the races in full on YouTube for the Alfa Romeo Championship back at Silverstone. We didn't show either of the Anglesey races though, so to tell you what happened at that meeting, it was Mervyn Miller who took a pair of race victories. Roger Evans was in 2nd place in both races, but neither of them made the trip up to Cadwell Park. So Paul Webster, who was 3rd in both races at Anglesey, is the man most likely potentially to do some damage in the championship. Now there is Oxborough's car being towed away rather unceremoniously from Charlie's. Is that also where Chris McPhee has vanished, I wonder? You would imagine that it is. They were both racing for the lead and they both disappeared on the same lap, so we'll wait and see. There's no obvious damage to Oxborough's car though, it must be said, so hopefully we'll get to see him out again for race number 2 a bit later on. But it is a shame that their lead battle and that Oxborough's time in the race lead came to such an early end, really. Chris Oxborough was out at Silverstone, of course, last time out, picking up a modified pair, indeed of modified class wins, but then hasn't been out since. He missed Anglesey. He's here at Cadwell though, and was looking to try and get himself what would have been by far his best finish of the year so far. He had a couple of top 10s at Silverstone, but had never been on podium yet this year overall, and he was in good shape potentially to achieve that here today. There go the Twin Spark cars going through, much more standard machines running in the Twin Spark Cup, up to 2 litres, 16 valve Twin Spark engines, and predominantly the 156s and 147s that we see in that particular class, and they often produce some of the closest racing in the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship. So we're under safety car here then at Cadwell Park, and that's a shame because the drivers would have all been really enjoying driving this place at full pelt. It is one of the most challenging circuits in the country, one of the most spectacular to watch from, and it does tend to produce pretty interesting racing. Although it's tight and narrow and hard to overtake, it's such a challenging circuit that once you get the lead, it's almost tempting just to push a bit too hard and make mistakes, and so often we see that the race leader doesn't push themselves right to the extreme of what they can do, thus keeping the field a little bit closer together, and that seemed to be the case in the early going of this race before we lost the two Chris's who were dicing for the race lead at the time. Lights appear to be out on the safety car though, so with about 7 minutes or so left on the clock, we are about to go racing once more here at Cadwell Park in round number 5 of the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship. There's Tom Hill leading the Twin Spark Cup. That car really does look very, very well prepared, as all of the cars do, to be fair, in this championship. You have to put a lot of TLC into owning an Alfa, whether you're going to race it or just use it on the roads, and these drivers, no exception. They will pour their heart and soul into their racing cars. Not a great restart there for Richard Ford by the looks of it, who was running, remember, third within the Twin Spark element of the race. Andy Inman rounding out the field. At the front of the field, though, it is race on once more, and it's side by side for second place. In fact, we've had a change for second place, because Paul Webster, who's woken up all of a sudden after the safety car, has made his way ahead of Scott Austin into second place. So second place belongs now once again to the driver who started in second place. Austin down to third, and then it's Tom Hill and Mike Tideman. And Mike Tideman, having broken free from the attentions of Richard Ford, looks as though he fancies his chances of challenging for a race victory as well. So the safety car really has changed the complexion of this race altogether. Leaders head up towards Park Corner once again with Paul Webster, now back into second place. Here's the fight for third in the Twin Spark Cup, and it is still Richard Ford just about ahead of Dave Messenger, but only just. There is the Riccardo Loselli 147, car number 27, running just ahead of Chris Healy in the black number 62. Leaders, though, out of the gooseneck down towards Mansfield once again, and with time ticking on, has Paul Webster got anything that he can do about the race leader McPhee? Imagine that Webster's car is quicker in a straight line, McPhee's car possibly the better handling machine. It's going to be a fascinating battle between the two of them. Scott Austin dropping away slightly in third, but look how close it is between the leading two as they turn through the mountain once again. Using reserve actually there as he turns to the right hand of Paul Webster. You can see the grunt though of that Alfa Romeo really pulling him out of the corner as well. That is a 156, but it's far less standard than the Twin Spark cars that we see a bit further down the order. Austin locks up there, snatches an inside brake in towards the hairpin. Starting to push on just that little bit harder now as we approach the final stages of the race. Back across the start-finish line we go again, and this is where Webster will try and open the taps of that 156, try and close in on Simon McPhee, and then try and get a good run through the first couple of corners. That's the deep, quick left-hander at Coppice, and then the right-hander at Charlie's, double apex right-hander of course. That second one surprising a bit on the exit, very easy to run wide. Not a brilliant exit from there for Webster this time, but then he'll open the taps again up the park straight, and you can see there visibly how much quicker he is in a straight line. If only he could come off Charlie's a little bit closer to Simon McPhee, he would maybe have a chance to attack under braking into the next corner, but he's just not quite close enough. And then through the rest of the lap, that definitely plays more into the hands of the shorter wheel-based, nimble, agile Abarth of McPhee. However, the longer wheel-based Alphas, a little bit more stable maybe over some of the bumps and the crests. So it ebbs and it flows, this. And that's what makes the racing in the Alfa Romeo Championship so fascinating, because you've got cars of all shapes and sizes, all different ages. The series being opened up now to non-Alfa Romeos, but cars that still run within the Fiat Chrysler group, hence the reason that the Abarths are allowed to Lanciers, but also therefore be eligible for Chryslers as well. We hope to see a bit of variety on the grid in the near future, but even when it was just Alfa Romeos, you do have great variety of Alfa Romeos, from the older cars to the newer cars. Oh dear, some of the cars that have had a bit more work done to them maybe than some others, and it produces really interesting racing. That front left tyre looked remarkably low then on Paul Webster's car. That was, I think, just the forces being put through it as he turned and ploughed his way through Barn Corner. There's Richard Ford still third in the Twin Sparks. Then a three-way fight for fourth going on here between Dave Messenger, Christian Leith and the orange machine of Simon Kresma, who will be kicking himself for a bit of a sluggish start, but they are absolutely together now as they go towards Coppice once again. A few laps remaining in this race still, so there's time for these places to change, and there's a big look at the inside there for Simon Kresma to try and find a way past Christian Leith. He couldn't quite do it though, so Christian just about hangs on. man who last raced in the championship in 2014 but has been around once more this year. He also, he went to Anglesey, beg your pardon, finished both races inside the top. They had a podium, in fact a class podium in the third race. Dave Messenger out on the grass there, coming through Park, and that will cost him a position to Leith. So Leith goes through. Man I was just talking about, that serves me right for taking my eyes off the screen and looking at the past results. Messenger ran a bit wide there on the brakes, coming towards Park Corner, bounced over the grass, and so Christian Leith it is who goes through. So Christian, who, as I was beginning to say, got himself a podium in the class in race number 2, this time out at Anglesey, now moves his way into 4th place within the Twin Spark class, though he may not keep it if Dave Messenger gets his own way, because Dave is on 3 wheels there, so late was he on the brakes in towards the mountain, trying to get the place back. In the end, though, costs himself momentum and allows Simon Creswell to close back in. Simon looking for a way through, but that's going to be easier said than done through this particular part of the road. Down the inside goes Messenger, though. He's back ahead of Leith, so Leith losing another place there. That was strange. Christian Leith just gained that place away from Dave Messenger, just didn't seem to get off the corner very well. Loses the place down in toward Barn. Right, leaders back out of Charlie's, and Simon McPhee looks to have just about done enough to see off the challenge of Paul Webster. He's not really close enough on this final lap to challenge. He's closing back into a straight line there, look at that. You can really see there, right in front of the straight line's been an advantage, but from now on in it should be Abarth territory. Both of these cars front-wheel drive, of course. The Alfa Romeo definitely the quicker in a straight line. We've seen that visually throughout the race, but through the corners it all gets a little bit closer together. Down into the gooseneck, and Mansfield they go. McPhee just runs a bit wide there, misses the apex, and so Webster will be sniffing a half an opportunity here to maybe launch an attack on the last lap. In fact, he is going to be right with him as they head towards Mountain, and has a big goal at the inside line. This for the race lead with half a lap to go, and Paul Webster is suddenly a real thorn in the side of our race leader Simon McPhee. Didn't quite make his stick there, but that was not a part of the circuit where I expected to see Paul having a go. Can he get close enough through the ball bends maybe to have a go in towards the hair? But I don't think he can. And that Abarth is very good on the brakes. Webster closes in though. One more corner to go, and then the drag to the line, and that could be all important if Simon McPhee doesn't get a good run out of the final corner. Don't count out Webster making a last-ditch run for it, but I don't think he's quite close enough to do it. The drag to the line begins, the checkered flag is waved, and Simon McPhee takes his first victory of the year, and it's the first victory in 2018 for a non-Alfa Romeo in the championship. Second place goes the way of Webster, third for Scott Austin, and fourth, and the win in the Twin Spark class goes the way of Tom Hill. So maximum points for Paul for him, and he will extend his championship lead over Paul Webster, who only managed second place within his class. Then it's Mike Tideman second, and Richard Ford third, and Dave Messenger just hangs on for Christian Leith and Simon Creswell. Confirmation of the result then. McPhee from Webster from Austin, your top 3 in the Power Trophy. Then the Twin Spark cars, Hill from Tideman, from Ford, from Messenger, and Christian Leith 5th in class. Simon Creswell is 6th, and 7th place, 10th overall, was Riccardo Loselli. Chris Healy is 11th, and Andy Inman 12th. We lost Chris Oxborough and Chris McPhee in that mysterious drama that they had at Charlie's that unfortunately put them both out of the race.
Simon, congratulations on your win, but there was some tough racing throughout the field, including battles with your brother.
Yeah, me and Chris always go well together. The cars are very well matched. Driving styles are pretty similar, so yeah, it's always good racing with Chris, yeah.
And the win today, does that put you, give you a little bit of confidence for tomorrow?
Yeah, we were hopeful for this weekend anyway, because the cars always go well around here, the twisties. The puntos are always fast through the corners, so yeah, we were hopeful anyway, but yeah, very happy for today.
A little bit of rain at the moment. Is the expectation for this to continue overnight, and will you be happy if it does?
We're even better in the wet, so yeah, the wetter it is, the better it is for us again. So yeah, we'll be happy with rain.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out there tomorrow, especially if the conditions are like this.
Thanks very much.
Tom, congratulations on your class victory in the Twin Sparks, but that wasn't quite as easy as it might have appeared.
No, it was a little bit tricky. Sort of from the start, I sort of did my normal warm-up procedure, but unfortunately we had an engine mount fail on us, so trying to sort of maintain kind of a bit of pace, but critically, you know, keeping the car going towards the end of the race. So it was a bit of a tricky one for me.
So I'm guessing now that's going to be a gearbox change overnight to get ready for the next race tomorrow.
It is indeed, yeah. I mean, as always, it's a massive thanks to Bianca Auto Developments as the team. I mean, they're absolute magicians with these cars. So I've got every faith that they'll be able to change the gearbox and hopefully, have a good race tomorrow.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out there, and congratulations once again, and hopefully everything will be safe and sound for tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much.